This is another fantastic episode of Customizing the Clone Wars. This is episode 8. I am your host, as always, ObiWan, and along with me, my friend and co-host, Brian Fulton, otherwise known as Darth Daddy. How you doing, sir?
Very good. Very good. I'm excited about this episode, Trespass. It's season 1, I believe. What episode was that? Right. Are we up to is it episode 15 we're up to now?
This is episode 15, folks. Yes. We are not going in the actual order of the episodes. We're going based on each DVD set, right?
Yep. The way they were released.
The way they were originally released. I would like to do it the other way, honestly, but we have yet to receive, a pack of the Clone Wars in that order. Man, wouldn't it be great to have something like that?
I'm hoping that maybe for one of the anniversaries, I don't know if it'll be like a 5 or 10 years after the fact, but it would be nice at some point if we could, somehow get a release where everything's in chronological order.
Will Disney acknowledge the Clone Wars? That's the question.
I mean, you would think they have to. I did a podcast earlier this week on Toy Run, the action figure cast, with Chris B of JediBusiness.com and Jake Stevens for Forlorn to Zuckus. And we actually ended up, we talked about the podcast that we're doing actually right now. But at the same time, I had mentioned that, when Disney bought Star Wars, they also bought a fan base. And, I had discussed how Clone Wars was, my child's generation of Star Wars. And you have to hope that they realize that they have to service those fans and, that generation of Star Wars. I don't think they could ignore it forever.
Right.
I understand that you don't want to promote, Cartoon Network, your competitor, but at the same time, you bought a fan base, and you can't not service that fan base, and that's what I addressed on the podcast.
That's great. I did listen to the show. It was great. Those are some great guys, talking about toys. That's a great show. So, all right, folks, let's get into Trespass. It is episode 8, like I said, episode 8 of Customizing the Clone Wars, and that is episode 15. And I'm going to go ahead and read from the episode guide once again. There it is. And I'm going to read the little blurb. It says, Anakin and ObiWan arrive on the frozen world of Orto Plutonia to investigate why a Republic base has fallen silent, and discover that the base has been destroyed by ferocious Tao's warriors. The shaggy Taos want only to be left alone, but Chairman Chai Cho of neighboring Pantora claims the planet for his own and orders the clones to fight the Tao. All right, so this is Trespass. This is a Hoth-esque episode, I would say. It's really a great episode. It teaches us a lot of things about the state of the galaxy and kind of people and their ways, the character that they have going on with the Pantorans. These are the characters that George Lucas played. He played one in Revenge of the Sith, and we actually see him play that character in Clone Wars as well, don't we?
Yes, we do actually, which is actually, like I said, we talked about, I think, in a previous episode, I kind of wish he used his real voice and they didn't hire a voice actor, but we both agreed that the voice actor they chose was sufficient, and, it played well.
Yeah, it worked. I think it worked. Kind of a deeper voice, but let's get into the fortune cookie. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Okay, so here is the fortune cookie. It says arrogance diminishes wisdom. and I'm assuming that is because of Chairman Chai Cho, which is the ambassador, or he's the
I
chairman.
think he was a chairman. Yeah.
Yeah. So that guy, he definitely, he's just angry the whole episode. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. What I really liked about this episode, I'm gonna probably throw out like some jargon that's used in anthropological circles. I went to school for anthropology, but I felt like there's a term in anthropology that we use called ethnocentrism, and it's basically the inherent belief that your culture is superior to another's culture. And I felt like this episode was a perfect personification of that definition. And I felt like the chairman had this idea that the Tals were savages, that they were an inferior race, that they had nothing to offer, and that, since he came from a superior or more technologically advanced society, that, he therefore had the authority to rule over what he felt was a primitive or savage race. And unfortunately, this is something you think, humans have been on the planet now for hundreds of thousands of years. And you would have hoped by now we would have learned that having those ideas of superiority or thinking that you're better than someone else would have been diminished, and we wouldn't still be using this as a way to impose our beliefs on others. Unfortunately, that's not the case, but I do like the way that George Lucas and Dave Filoni handled this information and the whole concept of cultural superiority and inferiority.
Yeah, I think species in that series, in the Star Wars series, ultimately they have kind of their little secrets and whatnot. So bad attitudes and bad habits and whatnot in different situations, or different beliefs, maybe belief systems and whatnot. So let's get into the episode. Here I have a picture. Are you seeing that there? They're going down to Ordo Plutonia, and it's kind of a frozen world. It's really cool. It's like all kinds of ice just kind of jutting out of the surface of the planet. It's actually really cool. So Obi-Wan and Anakin and the droids, actually, they accompany these ambassadors, the chairman and the senator, down to the planet, and they find that it's been attacked. So I'm going to talk about our first custom in the episode, and that is just customizing both Anakin and Obi-Wan. And I have several different ways and standards in which I went about going, doing these figures. So I thought I'd share them at this time. Are you seeing that there?
Yeah, it looks great, actually.
Yeah. And
I think this is my first time seeing these.
Yeah, I actually just did these pictures today. So,
oh, that explains it.
As you know, these characters both came out. One came out with the hood up, and the other one came with the hood down. Wouldn't it have been great if we just got both of them with a hood up feature and a hood down feature? So what I did was I just simply customized the hoods, and what it really came down to is just repainting the hoods the different color that the character possessed. So it took me getting other Anakins and other Obi-Wans, but eventually, once I had enough hoods and hood downs, I could just fit them on each other and just repaint them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, actually, that was a great idea.
Yeah, and then with the first picture here, if you notice the kind of the goggle, or not the goggles, I'm sorry, the binoculars, the macro binoculars that Anakin has, they are from a sand trooper, and you don't always have to have artistic skill and ability and whatnot to make your characters look different. You know, that was one of my beliefs when I first started this whole thing. I didn't just want to collect. I wanted to make my collection significant. You know what I'm saying? So you can do that in just simple ways like this. You don't necessarily have to go all out to change it and everything. And once again, I did do the lightsabers on the belt. So I did have to actually drill the holes, but little accessories here and there certainly help in, you know, making it different. If you're seeing this picture here, it was very difficult to get those goggles like up on his hat, but not on his eyes. You know. What do you think?
Especially like with the hood, because I'm sure every time you tried, you know, once you got the goggles where you wanted, I bet once you put the hood on, it started pushing them down again.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what was great about this episode, and that brings me back to why I did these lightsabers on the belts. They never lit their lightsabers, not once in this episode.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, isn't that great? So I thought it was important to make sure that those lightsabers were on the belts because they never actually lit the lightsabers. And
yeah, this one, they were more there for diplomatic reasons in this episode compared to, you know, the usual role.
Right, and that's what Dave Filoni said. They were back to kind of doing what they used to do. They were more like peacekeepers more than anything else. So these are just various pictures of all the different ways you can pose them if you want to. But I didn't really do any repaints on these characters. I just painted those little hoods that you see.
Yeah.
And then these are the various ways they look. I have them right next to each other. So the one on the left is how he came. Or no, actually, that's not how he came. That is the custom on the left-hand side, and then the one on the right is how he came, only with the customizing parts of the lightsaber and the binoculars. Yeah, the accessories. Accessories. Everybody's got to have their little accessories, right?
Oh yeah.
And there's Obi-Wan there. Yeah, I believe the one on the right was how he came in the package. Yeah, and then I changed him to the one on the left. All right. So let's move on. So here we have two very striking characters. I really would like to get to both of these, but unfortunately, we have not yet. So neither one of us, right?
The character design, yeah. I mean, I was looking at them, and they're on the radar, but they both require a decent amount of sculpting, so it's not something that you could just like, you know, do willy-nilly on the fly. It's something that you probably have to do a little bit of planning for, and get the right parts and the right time frame to get it done.
Right. Yeah, and just like last week with the Lerman characters, man, I started working on that T-Watt Ka, and it's taken forever. Just the little details. The devil is in the details, they say. Always. Sometimes. So sometimes they can take a little bit more effort if you're actually wanting to get them, you know, spot on, as they say, across the pond. All right. Another thing I really like about this episode is we got R2 and 3PO. It feels like a Star Wars whenever the droids are there, you know. The storyteller.
Yeah, whenever you have them.
Yeah.
It definitely makes it feel more Star Wars when you have the droids.
Yeah. And then we have Rex in a different outfit. Of course, we did receive this Rex. And in the episode, I don't know if you noticed, but he actually doesn't have his holsters on his belt. Did you notice that?
Wow, so they actually added it in for the Hasbro version, but if you actually watch the episode, they're not even contained in it.
Right. The trooper that came with the cloth version of the comma, it was a little bit closer to what Rex looked like as well. You don't see him once with the holsters. So
what's funny too is they released that speeder that they're flying,
mm-hmm.
but when they released it, they didn't release it with that Obi-Wan Kenobi. They released it with
the regular one.
The Obi-Wan Kenobi with the regular armor.
Yeah. This is the first time we saw like a kind of a cool Republic speeder. You know, I thought this was a great little ship. I have several of them. I think they're really
do as well.
Yeah, they're great.
As many as I could.
So here we see Obi-Wan and Anakin, and they figure out that the Tals are watching them, so they go up and meet with them. And this is the first time we see Mechiwanto. So I have my custom, but would you like to share yours first, or would you like me to share?
Either or. I mean, mine would have never even come into being if it wasn't for you making yours, because you allowed me to take your Narglatch, I guess it's a headdress of some kind, and you allowed me to make a mold of it and cast it to make it a lot easier for me to make mine.
Yeah, I definitely, let's see here. Yeah, I felt like I needed to have this guy for sure. He was so cool. The guy we're referring to his name is Mechiwanto. He is the village scribe, right? I think is what they called him.
Yeah,
or whatever.
He passes on the oral traditions and oral history.
But unfortunately, we only got one Tau warrior, and that was the head. And what was his name again? His name was
or Thyssen or Thiessen or something along those lines. I don't know.
Tyson. Tyson. But man, wouldn't it have been great if we got this Mechiwanto guy?
The beautiful thing about the Tyson is they gave you all his accessories and they were removable. Mm-hmm. So you could just take those accessories off, and then you had Tao's warriors. And, because of your idea, you were able to take that same figure and use it as a base figure for Mechiwanto just by creating your own accessories.
Yeah. And speaking of accessories, I had to have that jawbone axe. That's what I call it, a jawbone club. And if you're seeing this picture that I have up, this is my version of Mechiwanto. And that headdress is what Darth Daddy was talking about, where I just basically customized it out of, I believe it was Fix-It originally. So it was definitely just this hard plastic on his head, and it just sits right atop his head. It can come off. It looks a little crooked in that picture, unfortunately. But what I did is,
when it sits on the figure, it's not crooked at all. I mean,
yeah.
Like I remember when I received it, it fits on there very nicely, snugly, and you did an excellent job with it.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And I had to have that jawbone axe or that jawbone club that's in his left hand.
Did you make that out of the Return of the Jedi bone that came with the Rancor?
You know what? No, I didn't. I literally made that out of a leg. An action figure leg that didn't have any articulation. I just kept. I just went back hard sculpting. There are methods and ways that we do things on our show, or the way you might do it. You can certainly sculpt by hand. You can do whatever you need to do. But what I did here is I just took a leg, an actual action figure leg, and I just kept grinding on it with my Dremel tool. And then eventually I went over it with green stuff. Green stuff this time. What is the green stuff called again?
Knead-A-Tite.
Knead-A-Tite. Yeah. So you can get these types of Fix-It, Knead-A-Tite, and Procreate. Those are some of the ones that I use, and I know you use them too, because they just they're very versatile, and they have a fair amount of work time, and they don't need to be cooked in the oven. It's okay to use what's the one that you have to cook it in the oven? Is that
Is it milliput or
Yeah,
it
one
might
of
not
them.
even be milliput. I think it's called. I've never used it myself personally. I'd be afraid to put my action figures in the oven. I'd probably melt them because I'd forget that they were in there.
And that's something that I actually did as well. When I first started, I really didn't know what I was doing. It was like a trial and error kind of thing, and I put mine in the oven, and they just melted completely to the pan that I had them on. And that's essentially why I use a hair dryer, but that doesn't mean the oven's not going to work.
Yeah.
But
I like the ones that, you could do it, you could walk away, and it'll just dry on its own, harden, and I never have to worry about applying heat or anything of that nature because I'm
yeah,
probably not the best guy for that.
yeah, this one it's specifically it's just air dry. So there you go. It's just all I did was I made the headdress. I did use a little plastic from like another action figure to fit it around his head, and then
Yeah.
I sculpted onto something. And you actually, I was really impressed what you did. My headdress is not finished in the back. I just had it hanging down where you actually took and you put the actual skin, and that's like a Narlatch head, folks. If you're seeing it there, I guess they just use that the Narlatch, that creature, and we'll get into him in a moment. As their resources for just about everything, apparel or probably food. They probably eat them also. Who knows what they do to survive there. Another thing Dave and them were talking about was just the overall how do they survive? What's burning in the fire? You know what I'm saying? If the planet is all ice, how are they going to have wood?
Yeah.
And like I said on one of the episodes, I'm not really one of those guys that I don't like in Clerks, that movie where they're talking about all the people on the Death Star, and they kind of need the science behind it and everything to explain it. I'm not really one of those guys. I'm okay with just kind of the fantasy of it, and
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter, what's burning in their fire. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I just enjoyed the episode overall. So let's move on. Let's
Oh,
try to keep.
before we do, I just have two questions, but
Yes, sure.
on that figure. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know I made the clothing on the Mechawanto out of green stuff. What did you actually make yours out of? That's my first question. Second question was, what did you use for the teeth on the jawbone?
Oh, the teeth on the jawbone. Those were that was just green stuff, or no, it was
Okay.
Procreate. It was a mix of green stuff and Procreate.
All right.
The purple wrappings or whatever on the jawbone axe, that was green stuff, but the little the teeth coming off of it were actually Procreate, because
Oh, nice.
it's a little bit more sturdy. Haven't you noticed that about
Yeah,
the
there's more of a firmness to it than the green stuff has.
yeah, it definitely can just really set up for amazing detail, I guess. So, and that's what I used on the handle too.
Yeah. And then on the clothing, like, what did you make his? That was out of like hard rubber capes, right?
Yeah, right. I just really Frankensteined it. Just took a brush and made it all used. Unlike I think you did yours all in green stuff or
Yeah.
Procreate, didn't you?
Yeah, and one of the things I guess we could also talk about is how we both made it so all the accessories come off and the clothing comes off, and
Right.
you could still have a Taos Warrior under there if you want to take all the accessories off. And it's a very expensive figure, and we basically made it so the figure wasn't affected at all.
Yeah, that was the notorious wave that everybody seems to be talking about lately with the Sidious in it. That was that same wave with the Sidious. Just very very hard to get wave. It had the Darth Sidious in it. It had the Magna Guard Phase 2 with the cloth on it. It had the stone, the Tyson, and somebody else. Who else was in that?
That'd be a way. There was a droid, wasn't it? Plo Koon's droid,
yeah.
or
no, it was TX-20 is what it was.
Okay.
The tactical droid, and just
that's what it was.
Unbelievably hard to get.
Yeah,
wave.
That would be one of those waves that you would hope they'd find in a warehouse one day and shows up in mass quantities of Five Below. That would be awesome.
And I'm of the belief these days that whenever there were things that were hard to find in the past, as we shopped, I'm primarily talking about brick and mortar or like just online. The scarcity, I think that goes to show that they didn't think those figures were going to sell, or they had some kind of weird reason why they wouldn't produce a greater number of them.
Yeah.
Don't you think? I mean, that's just me being skeptical or Mr. Conspiracy Theory. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know what happened with that one, because I think it could have also been that Tyson was such a big figure. It would have been a lot of plastic and expensive for them to produce in mass quantities.
Right. Yeah. If you want to go way back, this is not Clone Wars related, but with the E-Font man, you remember him?
Oh yeah.
That same thing happened. He was in the same package as everybody else, but the bubble was just so huge that they had this weird case pack that it ended up going straight to kind of the discount chain at the time, and that was KB Toys, kind of their
exclusive wave.
Yeah, well, it wasn't necessarily an exclusive wave. KB at the time was a pretty cool toy store you would find in malls and whatnot, but they ended up going out of business, and they had like an outlet store, like a KB outlet, and one of the collecting sites, I think it was Yak Face or something, they said, "Hey, KB has the E-Font man, go there now," and sure enough, there they were. I couldn't believe it, and they were $4.
And that was a fan's choice figure, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. But these days, I don't understand why we have scarcity. I really don't. But
yeah, I mean, we have that whole wave. I don't know if maybe it's going to be dropping this summer at some point, but that last wave of the Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Who knows? I still don't have it. I'm tired of looking. We can go on and on about that, folks. Yeah. Well, that's mainly why we talk about Clone Wars. We're kind of celebrating the Clone Wars.
When things were good.
Yeah, when it was good. It was a good time.
The golden age.
Yeah. All the problems Walmart has these days, you can't find it at Walmart. It's a terrible place to have an exclusive. Clone Wars was awesome at Walmart. You can get it. You can get everything there.
Yeah.
It was
Clone
awesome.
Wars, I mean, that was their best-selling action figure line. And there was a lot of love for the line, and it only proves that there was a lot of love for that line, because here we are years after the show is over and we're doing a podcast about it.
Right. Yep. That is true. So let's move it on. Let's get this going. So next we have the Narlach, and this was the creature that they rode. Unfortunately, we don't have a custom of it.
No, I saw one somewhere at some point, and it was over a year ago. Yeah, and I searched for a good hour today trying to find it, and I got so frustrated. I went online on eBay today, and I bought myself a He-Man Battle Cat. So I can come and make it myself, just because I have a pretty sizable army of the Narlach, and I wouldn't mind.
You mean the Tau? Yeah.
The Tau. So I wouldn't mind having a Narlach, to go against those speeders, since I have so many.
Yeah, they are cool. But do you have your custom handy?
Yeah, I'll pull that up.
I would love to see that. Because that'll help us go into our next portion
Okay, so this is mine here. With mine, I use Chad's um, headdress to make mine. I made a mold of it, and then I cast it. Um, I guess I'll show you at least how I did it. I rarely do work in progress pictures, but this is like one of the rare times I actually took a picture. And as you can see, there's the head cast before it was painted. Uh, then I, sculpted everything out of green stuff. Now I guess the, I don't even know what you would call what he was, where he did his writing on. I guess it was a piece of leather or a piece of parchment of some kind. With green stuff, I just threw a little bit of saran wrap down, and I basically sculpted it by hand, and I let it dry in the saran wrap. And then once it's dry, you can peel that saran wrap away, and you have a nice hard plastic piece, that you could paint right onto. And that's all I did. And I went with the dark color, that dark purple, and then I just lightened it more as I went towards the center. And in the end, you have a whole crew there, and you can see how with that Dyson figure, if you remove his accessories, you have a couple Taos warriors, and once you throw a Metrowanto in there, you have a whole thing, and you get your speeders up, and you can get your Taos there, and you have everybody set up for a big, snow battle, which is a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, Dave was talking about how it was kind of like harking back to like the wagon train kind of Western, where they were circled and outnumbered by the natives, if you will, of the planet, and they were certainly in a mess for sure. But yeah, I really like what you did with that. It was so cool how you had that little means of them communicating with Anakin and ObiWan, and they realized that the battle droids were crazy and they didn't want to deal with them. And then their troops just basically got in the way. So this gave Chairman Cho an opinion to destroy them, essentially. He didn't want to deal with them, and Anakin and ObiWan are just made to basically look like liars to the Tau warriors. And so they go into battle, unfortunately, after they leave, because Chairman Cho he's just not having it. And Chuchi's just trying to reason with him. That's the senator. She's very similar to, or in a similar situation that Padme was in when in Phantom Menace. And we always talk about the fact that the Clone Wars only complements the prequels. It gives us similar situations. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there is that jawbone club or axe. I just love that thing. This is some art that I just basically picked this up on Google, and you can use Google Images for your resource for customizing. I'm sure a lot of people do. They get screen captures and pictures and whatnot to kind of bring in the details. Just watching the episode sometimes isn't always enough, so that's what I use to make that axe. You definitely need to make one yourself for sure.
No, I'd love to.
Yeah, that was a beautiful display you had going there with that whole setup that you had going.
Oh yeah, that was fun to do.
Yeah.
It takes a while because sometimes someone falls over and you're like, man, I gotta go set it all up again. But
yeah.
when you get that picture you want, it's the reward is there.
Right. So here we are back. They're having a little skirmish, basically, and Chairman Cho is mortally wounded, I would say. And he tells Chuchi that he needs to be avenged, but they realize that Pantora has superseded what he was talking about. He's just kind of some old-fashioned kind of a guy where he just wants to, partake in violence. He thinks that's the best way, and Chuchi found a better way. So she's the one that unfortunately has to deal with after he dies. And that's the picture I'm showing right now. He's died, and he says, "Avenge me." And I don't know. She definitely did him justice, but I guess he wouldn't really see it that way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't think she had more progressive political ideas, and he definitely went more, the route of the way things have been done. And she did pay service to him in saying that it's a great honor to die for one's country. So that was like her way of saying, like, he did, that is honorable, but she kind of gave that progressive view and say it's even better to like live for one's people.
right. So she, in the end, essentially saved the day. And like I said, the Jedi never even had to essentially lift a finger.
Yeah.
They just stood around and they were peacekeepers, and the Tau bow to her and say, well, we accept it just as long as you leave us alone. And that's that image there. And then we see Obi-Wan kind of teaching her a lesson, telling her that she needs to just keep it up if she's going to, have a good career. And she realizes that. And so here we are at the end. And that was an awesome episode. I would really love to get to some of those other characters. I really like that Chairman Cho had top knot. When she took off his hat, he actually had one of those, I don't know, what do you call that, a man bun? A man bun?
No, I didn't know that. I didn't even notice that. I always miss the fine details like that. Like my son Elias always is like, what, you didn't see that? And I never do. But not until I start taking screenshots to make something, that's when I notice things.
Yeah, I've actually seen pictures of him without his hat on, and he has this awesome top knot on his head. So,
wow.
So that's the episode, folks. Thank you for joining us again. We love to talk about the Clone Wars. I am Peak ObiWan. You can find me at Facebook, Peak ObiWan Custom Creations. And you can find me at Clone Wars Custom Action Figures. Where can we find you?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. All over the place.
Yeah.
Go through the list.
Customsforthekid.blogspot.com. You can find me on Facebook at the same. You could find me on Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, Tumblr, Google+, YouTube. So you can access all that content from the main blog. The best content is on the main blog, but you can get basically links to the blog and all those other locations.
Awesome. Hashtag where can't you find Darth Daddy?
Yeah, pretty much.
Awesome. Thanks again, folks. We will see you next time. This is episode 8 of Customizing the Clone Wars. Take care.
Take care. May the Force be with you.